Hey, good morning. Profe Loco here to answer a question. How do I make sure my child with autism is prepared for the job market? And this is a question I've gotten a lot from parents who are afraid, and rightly so, about how their child will be able to be employed as an adult. Well, start young. For one thing, a lady named Temple Grandin, who is autistic and an expert in the humane way to kill cattle, she's written a lot of books, and there's even a movie about her. I heard her speak last year, and she said the first thing to do to prepare for a job is to volunteer. And she used the example of uh, volunteering at church. Pat, just show up on time and do what they tell you, which is just about like any job. So pass out bulletins, fill up coffee, um, whatever. Volunteering is good. Another thing you can do is mock interviews. Most interviews are online, but you can do mock interviews just sitting at a table and taking some questions from a family member or even at school from a teacher, and like, what do you know about this business? Well, nothing. So back to the drawing board, and you want to find out, what are your goals in life? Don't have any goals. What's a goal? Well, go back and uh, see the work on that. Where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. Well, have some answers for that. Another one is presentation. I mentioned in a previous special ed moment how I teach my students with autism to make eye contact, at least between the eyes, and to square themselves up. You want to make sure that they have a good, strong handshake. And in these days during the pandemic, it's more of a fist bump type thing. But make sure that they can present themselves by the way they dress, by their eye contact, by firm handshake. And that's, again, that's a learned skill. Um, Another thing is get them unplugged at night. A lot of them are playing games. My students with autism play games all night, and it by not getting enough sleep, it can mimic a um, it can mimic ADHD because they're not getting enough sleep, and so in the next day they're unable to focus, they're agitated, and that's not something you want. So unplug your child in the middle of the night so they're ready to go in the morning. Start local. Just go to your neighbors and ask if they can take down the trash once a week. Put it on a calendar so that the child can see, okay, this is a calendar, these are my duties, and even chores around the house. List them, checking them off, getting a reward. I've even written fake paychecks for students for incentives on when we're doing a job that they started at home. Um, the worst, realize when they get old enough, you can start making cold calls. And those calls, uh, for me, I just said a little prayer and went in and asked for the manager and say, hey, would you be interested in a student with special needs volunteering? And 9 times out of 10, it led into a paid job and work experience. And the worst that they can say is no, which didn't happen too often, which is really good. You can either you can even make their own business, and this involves like for one student, he needed to get a business. I had him start a coffee business. First thing first was safety, good hygiene. I had things written down, steps in a process. We studied money, so he knew how to make exchanges of money, and if he didn't, he knew who to come to talk to. Um, then this business, he'd have to go and talk. This is teachers on campus. He'd have to practice making eye contact, taking the order, coming back, making sure the order was right, and getting funds for it. Another thing for employment, transportation. Could be he or she doesn't know how to ride a bike. Get them some lessons, or you teach them themselves. Let them learn how to ride a bus or to use dial-a-ride. Because sometimes those with autism, it takes them a while to get their license, and that's okay. They're thinking about other stuff. There's a lot of things to share about pre-vocational skills, vocational skills. This is an overview, and this is Profe Loco with another special ed moment saying, have a good day. Bye-bye.